Three, two, one. All right. Hey, what's going on, guys? Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome back to another weekly edition of Market Rants. I'm your host, King Wabi. Before we get started, guys, I want to welcome Trader Mercury on. He's been a good friend of mine for the last 2 years. He's been in our spaces pretty much every single quarter, multiple times, man. So go ahead and smash that like button. Let's go ahead and get started and rant about the markets. We got BTC at 63.5. Keeps chopping a ton of people up, man, both bulls and bears, man. But Mercury, what's going on, brother? How are you? Great to have you on the show for the first time here on YouTube, man.
Yeah, good to be here, man. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I mean, a lot going on in the market, but at the same time, not a lot going on. Pretty some significant events occurring on a grander outlook, but at the same time, in the interim, kind of just choppy nothingness. So people, getting swayed either side, bearish, bullish, depending on 3% movements. That's kind of the market that we're in. But really quick, just for everyone to understand my perspective and my outlook on the market, what I'm looking at is I was bullish for this entire trend. This entire rally upwards, I remain bullish. So I'm the mooniest moon boy on your crypto Twitter timeline. I'm maintaining all my swing positions on altcoins because, during a lot of that time period, altcoins are rallying hundreds, if not 200%, 300% kind of thing. Just looking to maintain those positions and ride that wave until it crashes, and then it crashes here. And so I even remember talking with you, Wabi, on one of the Twitter spaces, saying something like RNDR is broken down below a high time frame trend. You see I have some squiggly lines drawn. RNDR broke down below a high time frame trend. And when I see RNDR break out of this range, as well as flip that trend bullish once again, that's my trigger to get long. That is the market telling me, hey, we probably go much higher, right? We're probably going to resume the exact same uptrend of which we just previously had. And this is not going to mean much in hindsight. So I'm gladly going to, adhere to that way of thinking, that thought process. And ever since then, that trend lasts, 200% or so. And then eventually somewhere around here is when it starts to break. This was weeks before BTC showing weakness on a higher time frame. And I remember telling you, and at the time you were asking me for my analysis in Twitter spaces. And I was saying, well, a lot of trends are still holding. BTC is still above 4-hour 200. So I got to remain bullish. I have to, be prepared for the breakout and the rally past into new all-time highs and that second leg higher and that retail euphoria, that greed, blah, blah, blah. I'm bullish at the top, man, but I'm happily bullish at the top. The same mentality that has me bullish at this top is the same mentality that allows me the grace to be able to acknowledge, what? We're doing something different. Something different is happening here. The market is shifting, and I adapt to that gracefully, start cutting positions, whatever. And, from here, RNDR goes negative 40% lower. We do the exact same thing on something like Solana. And, Solana, high time frame trend. I think I bought somewhere around here, around 120. So I wasn't buying these retests, but I did buy the breakout of this range. And same thing, trends. We get 120% move or something like that on Solana. Trend breaks right here. This is where we put in a low, lower high, lower low. We lose 4-hour 200s, right? We haven't done that before. And then what happens? Solana moves negative 30% lower, right? So providing myself that grace to adapt to whatever the market is doing. And granted, BTC is doing the exact same thing and nothing's changed. So, we put in that lower high. This isn't vindicating my thesis. It's not, it's not doing anything from here to today, from these lows, from this high. I'm giving you the same analysis through and through, relatively the same, because high time frames remain bearish. We're downtrending. And here's where a lot of people disagree with me and start to hate me because Mercury, this is a range. And I understand that. Even a 4-year-old can look at that chart and say, relatively, we're just going sideways. But in my systematic way of thinking, we have trend, right? So I'm still allowed to be applying trend style analysis until it stops working. And if we reclaim that trend, I will assume, just as I did back here, that we're just going to resume the prior trend. We're just going to resume the uptrend. right? So this range high is probably not even going to matter all that much if we're able to reclaim, that significant inflection point, which is currently acting as resistance, right? So I wouldn't even be able to say, oh, just stop at the range, right? Once we get to 71K, start making bearish arguments again. It's probably going to be a top, blah, blah, blah. I wouldn't say those things. I would actually be looking past 71K. Not that I'm neglecting that as resistance or anything, but that's not really where I want to stop, right? We're all here for the retail euphoria and that greed, that, all-time highs rally, that mania. Well, that's what I'm going to target, right? Because that's very much reality if we start to uptrend once again, whether that be from here or, on the next leg upwards, or even if we break down and then reclaim, legs upwards, that's what we threaten on that next leg upwards. And that's really where those gains are going to be made. That 20% of the time that we're in that mania phase, where it accounts for 80% of the wealth, because in, a span of 1 or 3 or 4 months or whatever, we see altcoins go, absolutely ballistic, like 1,000% moves and so on. So, and we saw something similar in the previous, bull market, and tends to be that retail euphoria, greed, that last blow off. You see, I already have it marked out, but that last blow off, where BTC has its fun, it has its rally, everything is going up along with it. It's kind of like that rising tide is lifting all the boats. And around the same time period, so this is what, April 14th, 2021, around that same time period, we have something like Ethereum, which is also up an absurd amount. Let me find my chart here. It's also up an absurd amount. But from that time period where, BTC starts to top out and lag sideways and trade in a range and whatever, put in lower highs, Ethereum goes another 100% higher thereafter. So it's like, that's what we're here for. That really, that second wave, of that greed, of that all-time highs, that craziness. And I think that mostly what we've seen is an appetizer, which sounds absurd to say, but really we haven't seen everyone's a genius season. And that has been my belief, and that continues to be my belief. We have not seen everyone's a genius season. Go ask, Litecoin holders or XRP holders, or basically 95% of altcoin holders and maximalists in this market, if they're having a great time and benefiting from the fact that we're in a bull market. And most of those people are going to tell you no. But when you go ask Solana maximalists, right, or INJ maximalists, or AI coins maximalists, or meme coin maximalists, or on-chain Solana degeneracy maximalists, they're having a great time. So it's been spotty. It's been outperformance here, outperformance there. If you're not focused on the coins that are showing relative strength, you're not really having a great time. The market might be rising tide lifting all boats, but we haven't really seen that greed. So that's really what I'm looking for on that next leg higher. And in the meantime, I'm just being very objective. This looks like a downtrend, so it's probably a downtrend. And to my credit, it has continued to downtrend. So, and that remains true at this high, just as much as it is today, just as much as it is this low. So I can continue to say we are in a downtrend. I'm allowed to look for levels lower. I'm allowed to look for something as clean, like, on Ethereum, 200 dailies, 200 dailies, 200 dailies, 200 dailies, 200 dailies, 200 dailies. You get the point, right? I'm allowed to look for that region to be tested, and then we can see what happens from there. And that's another very high time frame inflection point. And either we get there or we start to reverse trends. And either way, I remain malleable, man. I remain adaptable and I remain fluid, and I adapt to whatever the market is giving me. But that's my outlook. So I remain very bullish on a much higher time frame. And in the meantime, I'm going to be very objective. The downtrend that is a downtrend looks like a downtrend, so it's probably going to continue downtrending. And so far, so good.
Yeah, man, to touch upon one of your first points, man, we're definitely here for the retail euphoria and all that stuff. And I think the number one signal for that, as much as, current market participants don't want to hear it, it's Ethereum breaking all-time high, right? It's, things like BNB hitting all-time high. And I know someone might ask, like, oh, why BNB all-time high? Well, number one, Binance is still the top exchange. And a lot of these, top altcoins, they were funded via BNB through all their launchpad stuff that they had in 2019 and 2020, man. So let me ask you this, man. Have you always used the 4 hour 200s for your analysis, or did that take you some time to develop?
Oh yeah, that's a common misconception that I get. So it's not 4-hour 200s. All the coins that I showed you, so Solana, RNDR, BTC, and Ethereum, it just so happens to be 4-hour 200s are the kind of line of best fit. I call it the most efficient trend portrayal. So it's a mouthful, but it's the most efficient way for me to portray the idea that, more or less this is an uptrend and that's a downtrend, and this is an uptrend and that's a downtrend. So it's the most efficient way for me to portray that. If it is something like, for BTC, I can give you a quick example just to really, get the idea across. Something back here, if I'm using 4-hour 200s, it is applicable in this region, but it starts to not really become all that applicable because throughout this entire rally, we're not using 4-hour 200s. So it's not an efficient way for me to portray that trend. So instead, I have to remain adaptable. And actually, this is also true over here for some of this rally upwards, where I start using 2-hour 200s instead. So the most efficient way for me to portray the idea that we're headed up on, like the daily time frame. So this is a high on the daily, it's a low. It's a high on the daily, it's a higher low, right? For me to portray that is 2-hour 200s at that time. So it's really just about finding the line of best fit. And then I attribute, an arbitrary definition, something like that is my high time frame trend portrayal. That is my low time frame trend portrayal. So it remains adaptable. It's not like I'm always going to use 4-hour 200s for BTC. And just because, 4-hour 200s are applicable for BTC doesn't necessarily mean that I'm going to go use 4-hour 200s on Solana too. It just so happens to be that, 4-hour 200s are a nice way of portraying it, which makes sense because it's typically a pretty comfortable, time frame for the masses. It's pretty common to hear 4-hour 200 across the board. But there are times where, a high time frame trend portrayal for a really volatile altcoin, something that, just came out last week, it might be hourly 200s are the high time frame trend. And then you can only see, the local trend when you zoom into like the 15-minute or something, right? So it's whatever's the line of best fit. And then it gets that definition: local trend portrayal, high time frame trend, very high time frame trend, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Go back to the daily, man, on Bitcoin, and go to where we're at right now. I kind of want to pick your brain on this, man. So, geez, dude, if we retest, right, because Bitcoin has a way of testing the daily 200 in every bull market multiple times, right? I mean, just look at from the bottom, how many times have we tested the daily 200, right? You've got February, you've got July, you've got November before we sprung out. We haven't tested that in almost 6 months, man. That would be devastating for alts, man, in my opinion. I think Solana would easily go back to like $80. If BTC goes down to 50K, I think that's where the daily 200 is right now. Like, it would still look good, but man, there would have to be something gnarly in the equity markets for that to happen. But are you prepared for that, brother? If BTC goes down in a straight candle to 50K?
Oh yeah, easily. I'm always prepared for whatever the market gives me. The kind of like subtle nuances, the shifts on the lower time frames allow me the ability to expand my horizons. So, when BTC is losing 4-hour 200s here, because that's what it looks like. So we're breaking down below a range. We're shifting the structure bearishly because it's a high, it's a low, it's a lower low. So that's a downtrend, right? So we're downtrending on daily market structure. We're losing 4-hour 200s, and we're breaking down below that little range low. So per my analysis, per my system, that's a downtrend. That's the green light for me to start cutting high time frame spot positions and start looking for levels lower. And, just like I would have the time previously, I look forward 200 dailies and we don't even hold those. We just go straight through it. So I'm prepared for that. I'm totally okay with that happening. I'm not just, and here's the thing. Here's the way that I get this idea across is when I'm looking for, trend breakdown and I'm looking for my high time frame inflection point, my fear is never, oh my gosh, is that the dip? Oh, did I miss buying the bottom? Or are my bids going to get front ran? Was that the dip? Was that the bottom? Was that the bottom? That's never my fear. My fear is always, am I going to get my inflection point and then some? right? I'm going to get the entry that I asked for, but the market's going to say, well, you asked for this. Be careful what you wish for. We're actually going to break down below that level too, right? We absolutely could. And it happens every cycle, right? It's not like it's an unfathomable kind of thing. So if you're targeting 200 dailies to be retested here, then, they hold pretty beautifully. But the next time around, the market gives you what you wish for and then some. So you have to be ready for that scenario, right? And it's not like I'm calling for a bear market. It's just that I'm remaining fluid and I'm positioning my portfolio in such a way that it reflects my perception of what the next outcome is, my perceived probabilities of what is the next move probably going to be in the market. So if we're in a downtrend, you can usually bet that I'm positioned as though we are downtrending. And then if we're in an uptrend, you can usually bet that I'm either exposed or looking for some kind of exposure. And that allows me the grace so that by the time we reach these higher time frame inflection points, I can then ask myself, what do I want to do? Do I want to buy here? Would I rather wait for, trend reclaims? So like 4-hour 200s might look like this, right? Would I rather wait for something like that? Would I, prefer to just buy here? Is it best to just do nothing and see maybe this region breaks, right? And we go even lower and I've been able to negate a loss. What do I want to do, right? But those options that I'm allowing myself to have if and when we get there are a tier higher than something like, by the time we get here, I was unable to fathom the idea that BTC might pull back into 200 dailies. And like you said, pretty logical. I mean, it happens pretty frequently. It's not like, it's something totally out of the norm, extraordinary. So if something like that happens, I'm prepared for it. It's not like I wasn't able to fathom that idea coming into fruition, so that, by the time we get there, my options are, oh shit, do I want to cut my position and accept my loss that I should have accepted, 30% ago? Do I want to add more and bring down my liquidation price so I don't get liquidated, or do I want to hold here and hope and pray that the 200 dailies hold and the market forgives me? Those are shitty options, right? Those are loser options. And if you consistently have a tier in terms of quality of those options available to you, you're always going to have those options available to you. And the saying goes, winners average winners and losers average losers, right? So regardless of whether the market forgives you or not, regardless of whether you double down in your position and you bring down your average entry and now you're in profit like crazy, by the time we do that, you're going to find yourself in the same exact scenario the next time around too, and the next time around and the next time around. And eventually what happens is, because you've been, without knowing it or not, you've been reliant on the market to continuously save you, right? Save you. And like GCR said, you could probably get away with just holding spot and just not giving your coins to the bankers. But eventually, if you do that enough, what ends up happening is the inevitable, right? Every bull market is met with bear market. Every bear market is met with bull. So it's not like I'm calling for a bear market. But when I see 4-hour 200s shifting here, back here in November 2021, and I see daily market structure putting in a low, lower high, lower low, shifting into a downtrend, and I see the demand zone breaking, I give the exact same analysis that I'm giving you today, which is, by the way, the exact same analysis that I gave back here too, which is, by the way, the exact same analysis that I gave here too, right? It's the same analysis. They're three drastically different outcomes. This is a negative 50% pullback, and we resume the bull market anyways. This is a negative 15% pullback. Why the hell did you care, right? We get right back in the trend where we got out at. You could have just bag held and had diamond hands, and the market wouldn't have, nothing would have happened. And you would have saved yourself some anxiety and less execution and less trading fees and blah, blah, blah. Okay, but when it happens here, it's not just negative 15%. It's not negative 50%, and we're still in a bull market anyways. It's negative 80% over the course of a year. We basically retrace most of those bull market gains, and now you're seeing why that way of thinking and remaining fluid and adaptable is very rewarding. It's appealing to want to do, right? So that's the gist, is I'm not being reliant on the market. I'm allowing myself to ebb and flow and adapt to whatever the market is doing. And again, the bearish arguments that I'm making today, I made them here too, and it didn't work. We got an additional, negative 11%. And I'm going to sit here and tell you I was wrong. I flip bearish. People love to think about it as flipping bearish. I'm not flipping bearish. I'm just adapting to whatever the market is doing, right? Stop thinking in extremes, bearish, bullish, bearish, bullish. It's just trading. It's just level to level. It's just key inflection points, marking out regions that you care about and, trying to, dictate what is the best decision to be making at that region. So we lose a significant region. We lose high time frame trends. We're falling back inside of a range. So that's a deviation now. You could say we swept the highs. It's a fluke. It's a fake out. It's a bull trap. It's this, it's that. I don't care. It is, we were supposed to continue uptrending and we couldn't. And now we're losing trends and now we're shifting structure bearishly. And now we're falling back inside of the range. These are not bullish things, right? They're bearish. We're probably going to continue lower. We get negative 11% lower. I'm sitting here and telling you it didn't work. We didn't get to the inflection point of which I was targeting. So surely, Mercury, you're coping and sidelined for all of the next rally. No. By the time that we reclaim key trends, which, by the way, I think in snowball to snowman kind of fashion.
That's your favorite, brother.
It's my favorite. It's the go-to. Yeah, it's the tried and true, notorious kind of analogy. We break out of the range here. Well, at that time, what's my bearish argument? If we're breaking out of the range, we're uptrending on all time frames. There's basically nothing stopping us from putting in a higher high here. What's the bearish argument? There isn't one. By the way, if you go on Twitter, I have a 2-minute video of this exact candlestick where I'm saying that at that time, as the breakout's happening. If you follow me in my free Discord, I'm saying that daily updates every single day. That's exactly what I'm saying at that time. Hey, Bitcoin's bullish again. I don't have any bearish arguments. Sorry, bears. Wind is to our backs for bulls. We probably go to the next level. Oh, we broke out of that level. Oh, we probably go to the next level. Oh, we broke out of that level. I maintain the same confidence through and through since 45K up until 73. And that's how I'm able to say, dude, I'm happily bullish at the top. I've been bullish since 45K. The same, redundant and moon boy, tweets that I'm giving you here at 73K are the same moon boy tweets that I was giving you back here. Right here, I'm tweeting, guys, I get to turn my brain off and do the exact same thing that I did in October. We started to show strength. I get to turn my brain off again and target the top right corner to infinity. Right. And then we do. And thank you, market. It doesn't always play out that beautifully, but it's a beautiful, beautiful thing when it does. Right. But how do you get to here without reclaiming 4-hour 200s first? And I'll just draw them out. They look like this. How do you get to here without reclaiming 4-hour 200s first? You can't. Well, how do you reclaim 4-hour 200s without reclaiming hourly 200s first, which look like this? You can't. Well, how do you do that without reclaiming the range lows, which are right here? You can't, right? So it starts somewhere. It's not like I'm just bearish one day and then I wake up the next day and, oh, I'm bullish now. No, that's not how that works, right? It's not a drop on the dime. I'm flipping my bias. It's gradual, right? In order to see that snowman start to come into fruition, I had to have acknowledged the snowballs and how they continuously compounded. So the strength starts on a smaller time frame and it works its way up and it gets bigger and bigger. And suddenly we have the foundation to the, snowman. We have the body. And then you add the nice little carrot and the top hat and the scarf. And oh, look at that. We have a full-fledged snowman. So now it's not a surprise that we're breaking out of the range highs. I already knew that because I was able to acknowledge the strength from here, which then gets compounded onto because we deviate back inside of the range, which then gets compounded onto because we reclaim high time frame trends, which then gets compounded onto because we find a high, higher low, higher high on the daily, which then we break out of the range. So now we have no bearish arguments left. I was able to acknowledge that gradually. I was wrong. It's not like I'm coping because I'm bearish at the bottom. Just by the way, I'm bullish at that top too. Happily, because I'm just a trend trader. I flip bullish here. Guys, I don't have any bearish arguments. We're above all key trends. At best, maybe you could say we're ranging a 7-month-long range. But truthfully, we probably break out of the range highs anyways. And if we do, then we really have no bearish arguments. So it might be in your best interest to start making some bullish arguments here, right? Because we're uptrending on all time frames. That's a uptrend. 4-hour 200s got reclaimed like that. We're above 200 dailies. We're above this little range. I don't see the bearish argument. And then we go from there. Ride that trend until it crashes. And I said yesterday something along the lines of, trading is like surfing. When the surf is good, you're out there, you're surfing, you have an amazing time. As that wave crashes, you crash with it. When there are no waves, you're chilling on the beach, having a great time, cracking open a beer, maybe drinking something out of a coconut, waiting for the next wave. That's where I'm at right now. I'm waiting for the next wave. That can happen from current prices. This is a higher low on the daily and we flip and create a higher high. Haha, Mercury, you're bearish at the bottom. That's fine. I've been bearish at every bottom for the past 4 years. Every single one, past 4 years. I'm doing just fine. My portfolio looks amazing. I can tell you that, right? Past 6 months have been incredibly luxurious to me. I've probably made more in the past 6 months than I have my entire career. So beautiful thing, right? I've watched his number go up without me. I've watched his number go down, and I've been bearish at bottoms. I've watched as, I make an analysis, it gets chopped up, and I've been able to adapt to it anyways. That is very vindicating. So that allows me to say, I don't need to rely on the market. I don't need the market to go to 200 daily moving averages here. Hell, I don't need the market to hold 200 daily moving averages, right? My parents get to retire this year, whether or not we remain in a bull market or not. I don't care. We can go to new all-time highs immediately after reclaiming 4-hour 200s. I don't need something to happen. It's amazing if it does, sure, because my portfolio probably reflects that. But if it doesn't, I adapt. Man, that feels good to be able to say and say with confidence. So yeah, that's my quote unquote, that's my winner's mindset. That's my dogma. And I've experienced it enough to the point where nobody can really shake me out of it.
Yeah, man, I'm looking at BTC right now, and it just looks like it's in a massive accumulation range, man. And, I think max pain for everybody would just be a repeat of what happened last year, right? Just no trend for like the next 6 months. And the altcoin market hasn't really picked its next leader, right? I feel like on-chain was pretty much the last thing to go. And then as far as the majors go, Ondo was the last one to peak out. Like, have you seen any altcoin right now, man, that actually like looks good to you? I really can't, man. Everything just looks either distributive or just ready to just go into the next leg of accumulation, man. But that was a pretty good analysis, man. Like, a lot of people's portfolios are likely down 65, 70+%. I mean, just take a look at, alts like Say, right? That thing is down like 60%. Tia is down like 50%. And even some of the newer launches, dude, like all the new launches have just been release, dump 50%, pump 3x, back down to accumulation range, and then just nothing. The whole market is just waiting for Bitcoin. And even ETH, right? I think ETH is probably going to be like more of a signal than BTC this time around. Just because of like, I noticed that when ETH outperformed Bitcoin for the month of February, mind you, just the month of February, right? It also outperformed Solana. Altcoins just melted face, right? Outside of INJ and TIA, because I think INJ and TIA were honestly anomalies, man, to be honest. I think they were a Q4 thing, and there's a possibility that they just might end up like how Chainlink was last cycle, right? Have a quarter or two of outperformance and then just like really nothing exceptional after that, man. But Pepe looks good, man. That's really the only thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. There's a couple coins. There's Pepe. So I'll show Pepe really quick.
Everyone loves Pepe, man. That is the universal meme.
So Pepe is reclaiming this range as well as reclaiming. I don't know if it's 4-hour 200s. You can make the argument that it's something else. I'm totally fine with that. I like 3-hour 200s too. It's a bit more obscure, but I think it portrays the idea a little bit better. So there's Pepe. There's Bonk. Bonk actually looks pretty good too. Same exact kind of gist where we're reclaiming a pretty significant level. So this happened obviously, a while ago, and it's just continuing today. But Bonk is reclaiming that significant trend as well as reclaiming that level, kind of capped at this resistance. But as long as it maintains this region, that's that inflection point, then there's an argument to be made as to why Bonk might go higher, right? Whether or not it's trading here or here. So, try and navigate that as best as we can. There's also Near. I like Near. This is a little setup. No freebies. So Near along, high time frame trends, you could say 4-hour 200s. Same kind of gist, right? Deviating back inside of this range. So that's a deviation back into this range, which makes me think range lows, mid range, and then like range highs, we could say somewhere around here. So more or less that is what happened, but just need to hold this region and we can probably expand higher or at least we can make an argument as to why we would. So there is some strength in the market. It's not the creme de la creme of strength, right? I mean, look at BNB. BNB is technically relatively stronger. Again, no freebies. It's technically relatively stronger to something like BTC or even the rest of the market, which is downtrending. But even that is, still stuck in this range. So really what we would see the relative strength come in is probably on the next leg higher. So if BTC did manage to reclaim 4-hour 200s, or honestly, even if BTC wanted to bearish retest those 4-hour 200s once again, it would look something like this, right? And even if it got rejected, that would probably be BNB breaking out of this range. And then maybe the rejection on BTC would be BNB pulling back into that range highs before the next leg higher, because this is price discovery, right? We're at all-time highs. So we want to be able to think big, right? The irony is that people spend their entire time trading crypto, waiting for that little time period, the 20% of the time where we're in an extreme, right? Where altcoins are doing 1,000% moves and things are in price discovery and blah blah blah. And yet when it comes, we start to overthink it. And the irony is we're all here for the outperformer, the 10x, 20x, 50x, whatever. And then you start to hear arguments like, oh, well, BNB is, looks really good and it's making new all-time highs, but meanwhile, Bitcoin's trading in a range. So that must mean that BNB is weak, right? I'm going to short. It's like, no, that doesn't make a lot of sense, right? How do you anticipate to be able to trade the outperformer if every time it outperforms, you're constantly comparing it to the alpha, which is obviously underperforming, because how the hell else would that altcoin be outperforming? Right, without BTC underperforming, without it stalling or chopping sideways or pulling back into a higher time frame trend or whatever, losing a range low. How do you anticipate that to be the case? An example of this is Solana on let me see. So Solana from there's a lot of squiggles here. Let me clean up this chart really quick. So somewhere over here, we could say like March 13th. Actually, I think this is the day that BTC tops out initially and starts losing a local trend. And Solana goes, 35% higher or something, right? And you go look at that and you're like, okay, well, I mean, that's cool. Solana goes up 35%, but you go look at March 13th, what is Bitcoin doing? And if we go to hourly 200s, please acknowledge how clean this trend is. Look at this trend. Unbelievable. Like it's crazy that the market even somewhat gives us trends like that. 77% uptrend for, let's say, 6 weeks or so, right? Yeah, like a month and a half. 77% over 6 weeks. And then only then on March 13th or 14th do we lose that trend. And then we pull back negative 15%. So then people will tell me, and this is a real trade that I took, Wabi, and people are, asking me, well, I should be cutting Solana, right? I should be shorting Solana because BTC is breaking down. It's like, no, why would you manage your Solana position based off of something that Bitcoin's doing? Doesn't make any sense. Bitcoin's breaking down. Solana is at the same time, right? As BTC is losing a 6-week long 77% trend, this is what Solana looks like. And it moves 30 or 40% higher. So now we're talking about a 50% difference where BTC pulls back negative 15%, Solana goes 35% higher. There's now a 50% difference in terms of outperformance. So when we find that outperformance, we want to hold on to it. That's a really valuable winning concept because eventually what's going to happen is we're going to get that alt season, right? And how do you have an alt season? How do you have sustained Ethereum outperformance without, BTC not looking too great or, doing nothing or maybe chopping sideways or whatever? How do you have that? You don't. It's not possible. Those are contradicting thoughts. So something like this, where BTC is losing high time frame trends, that's, that choppy period. So we'll say, April 14th, 2021 to like May 12th. Okay, what is Ethereum doing around that same time?
And Doge too, man.
Right. And Doge and, every other, I think Ethereum Classic went on a 600% move, man. Brother, that's kind of the point. So you have April 14th of 2021. That's right here, right? Ethereum goes 120% higher. So eventually there comes a time where you start to trade outperformers because they are outperformers. Because, I'm not going to cut my Solana position because of something BTC is doing, because Solana looks good. So people need to go cut their BTC positions and start buying Solana and start, pumping my bags. And that's the way to really be thinking about it. I'm the one in a coin that is showing strength. You guys need to sell your weaker coins and come buy my stronger coins, right? I'm preemptively in these bags. I have, $120, entry on Solana. We're trading at 145, making higher highs. Meanwhile, BTC is losing a 6-week long 75% uptrend. Come buy Solana. Solana goes 35% higher. Eventually what happens though, Wabi, is we're not talking about the difference between negative 15% and 35% higher. It's not just a net 50% difference. Eventually what happens is you make the same argument, but it's 100% difference in the span of a month, right? As BTC is chopping sideways or down 20%. It's, Ethereum Classic going up 600% in the same time frame as BTC is down negative 20%. It's Doge rallying, 10x as BTC is down negative 20%. So it's a really, really valuable concept to focus on outperformers because they are outperformers and bet that they're going to continue to outperform. And it doesn't always work, man. It does not always work. I'm be transparent and fair and honest because I don't need to be, scammy and lie about it. It's going to pay off anyways, right? Regardless of whether it works this time or the next time or whatever, it's going to pay off. It is a winning concept over time when you apply enough sample sizes. I make the same argument here on Ondo. Right here on Ondo, I put out a tweet saying, hey, Ondo is showing relative strength, right? BTC is breaking down, high time frame trends, putting in lower highs. That's not good. But here's Ondo reclaiming a key level. And I think it was something along the lines of like 2-hour 200s, right? And breaking out of a range high. I said, here's Ondo. Look at that. Ondo looks really strong. I say it's somewhere over here. Ondo goes immediately 25% higher. It actually makes a higher high, an all-time high. And I'm going to sit here and tell you that I lost money on this trade. I bought Ondo here because it was a relatively stronger outperformer. I took some profit at 96 cents, but please remember, I'm thinking big. I'm not targeting a 15% move higher. I'm targeting price discovery, right? And not just a new all-time high and sweep of the highs. I'm targeting extreme price discovery. I'm here for the 10x, 20x, 50x, 100x. How the hell am I going to do that if I'm cutting trades? I cut half of my position at 15% higher this daily resistance. That's not viable. That's not how that works, right? Ondo gives me 25% of immediate outperformance within the same 24-hour period, and I'm sitting here and telling you it didn't work. I lost money on that trade by the time that it came crashing back down and closing back below the same reasons as to why I entered the trade in the first place. It didn't work. I don't need it to work every time. But when it works for something like RNDR, right? And again, I'm just throwing out examples. I'm just giving, examples that I can think of off the top of my head. When it works for RNDR, and I'm able to say, oh, wait a minute, here's BTC breaking out of, or you know what? Actually, I think BTC is still trading inside of a range at this point. Wait a minute, BTC is still trading in a range. RNDR is breaking out of a range. Maybe I should be buying RNDR. And when it works, so even if we're assuming half the time it works, half the time it doesn't, when it works, that's what I'm given, right? When it doesn't work, I take a static loss. I cry about it for 5 minutes. I get over it, and it is what it is, right? We keep it going. So it's asymmetric risk reward. It's a very, very valuable way of thinking. Being able to not just be able to recognize relative strength, but also having the courage to be able to trade it. I see a lot of people shaking themselves out every time they find a relatively strong outperformer. They say, "Oh, well, this is going up, and I'm in it, and it's up 10%, but BTC doesn't look good. It looks heavy," and they cut that position. And then it doesn't matter what happens thereafter, because if you're right and that coin goes down because BTC is also going down and it drags the entire market with it, now you're going to be vindicated in a losing mindset. You're going to be vindicated. You're going to do that every time now. Eventually, alt season is going to come. How the hell do you take advantage of outperforming altcoins that are running thousands and thousands of percentages if you're constantly worried that BTC doesn't look as good? You can't. Those are not those are mutually exclusive thoughts, right? You either adhere to one or you adhere to the other. You're either trading the outperformers or you're constantly worried about what Bitcoin is doing. You can't do both at the exact same time. It's not possible. So eventually that season comes. This is not even altcoin season. Again, it is baskets of outperformance. It is all the other coins on the market look terrible, but RNDR looks amazing, right? It is all the other coins in the market look terrible, but Pepe looks amazing. It's that. So it's the appetizer, and it's a 200% move, right? You want to scale it down even further. It's, BTC pulling back negative 15%. Meanwhile, Solana goes up 35%. I'm not focused on a 50% difference, man. I make money on that. Cool. I can, I'm not even going to call my mom and tell her, hey, mom, I made 35% on Solana as BTC is going down. I don't care about that. I'm talking hundreds, thousands of percentages difference. Altcoin season, you better be prepared for it because it's probably coming. Because you know what? Human greed still exists. And that's kind of what I want to tangent into. Cyclical thoughts, very high time frame thoughts on the market. I don't know if you have any thoughts or if you want to cut me off. I know I'm ranting, man. If you want to cut me off.
It's called Market Rants, brother. This is the perfect show to do that. Before we continue, I do see a comment saying that the arguments are so serious that Wabi forgot about the statistics and we only have 17 likes. Guys, I do see there's a little over 50 people, quite a bit of a smaller audience today, given the fact that we literally just came off a stream right before we went live. Mercury, we were actually live on YouTube about 20-25 minutes before with market check. So the algorithm is a bit messed up, guys. I know I didn't say smash up the like buttons, but Jam, thank you for reminding me. So guys, go ahead and smash that like button, smash it up. I want to see at least 30 likes. Would really help out with the algorithm and would please our tech overlords to help out with awareness for our small channel. I'm your host, King Wabi. I host Market Rants. It's a weekly show where myself and another trader / content creator / digital asset market enthusiast joins me for close to an hour, and we rant about all things markets. It's raw, unfiltered, and hardcore for market participants by market participants. So go ahead and smash that like button and hit that bell notification to keep up with all of our shows, and also hit the sub button. Yeah, Mercury, we can touch into some higher time frame stuff as well, man. And alluding to your point with like, oh, just because one thing doesn't look good doesn't mean that I can't go into this stronger looking thing, right? And I remember a couple of weeks back, we were talking about Bitcoin dominance, right? And Bitcoin dominance has basically been in a bull market for, over a year now. And when we look at that, we say, oh man, if dominance is going up, that means ETH BTC is downtrending. If ETH BTC is downtrending, that means altcoins must look like crap. But when you just take a look at Q4, man, Solana rallied like 10x in 3 months. Not 3 months. I'm sorry. Actually, it rallied like
5 months, 5 or 6.
Yeah. For September, it went from like $15 all the way to like 105 or something like that. Tia did like a 12x. Neon, crazy numbers. Crown, Prime, Rollbit, melted face in the summertime. So even RNDR in Q1 of last year did pretty well. Same thing with FET, AGIX. You had a lot of on-chain stuff. So, there's opportunity in the market. You just basically have to be in a trader's mindset until maybe Ethereum breaks all-time high, right? Or maybe like total crypto market cap, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
Like more grandiose things. But this is definitely a trader's environment. And I would say that like if you don't have like a group of friends or at least a community, this market has definitely been hard. I mean, brother, all we have to do is just take a look at some of the altcoins that were trending last quarter or now outside of Pepe and WIF, and they're down a lot from their recent peaks, right? So it is what it is, right? That's just the nature of the beast. But what were you describing, man? What did you want to touch upon? I see you have the weekly pulled up, man.
Yeah. So now that I gave everybody my bearish thoughts, I made everyone a doomsayer now. Please be mindful that I'm still allowed to be objective of a higher time frame analysis, on BTC or whatever we're doing at that time. I'm still allowed to have my thoughts on a greater outlook too, just like anybody else. So, you can use GCR's way of thinking. You can have your own thoughts. These are my thoughts, right? My thoughts just so happen to be in tandem with GCR's. Because again, I'm not going to use another man to dictate the way that I'm trading. That's cringe. But but the second leg, man, the second leg away from previous all-time highs is where the fun starts. That's where we get, Justin Bieber starts to flex his Bored Ape. Lindsay Lohan starts to come onto crypto Twitter and shill some Ponzi schemes, right? And celebrities start talking about Bitcoin. Your high school buddy that texted you, hey, should I be buying Bitcoin at $70,000? Even though you've been trying to get them to buy Bitcoin since $20,000, those people, because 2 months have gone by, they still haven't bought, right? Those people start buying into the next leg higher, the next wave. And that's where the real fun starts. That is the bull market euphoria, greed, the mania that we're all really here for. That is that expansion away from the previous all-time high. The expansion away from the previous all-time high. Expansion away from previous all-time high. Expansion away from previous all-time high. So I can only imagine the same thing here too, right? Everything that we've seen, yes, it is an appetizer. Think about that for a second, because here are Wabi and I saying, Bitcoin dominance has gone up only for a year and a half, as you just said. ETH BTC has gone down only for a year and a half. It hasn't had one sustained rally against Bitcoin for greater than like 5, 10, 20, 15%, and then immediately retraces that rally and makes a lower low, right? We haven't seen everyone's a genius season, retail euphoria, mania, just throw a blind dart and, as long as it hits 99% of the dartboard, it's going to land and be a bullseye. Like, we haven't seen that yet. The reason, or the time period as to when we see that, is when we expand away from the previous all-time high. So if we start to reclaim high time frame strength, break out of the range high at 72K, right? Do all those things, suddenly what I'm deeming the cost of being a mid-curver, because man, when we go up and we're clearly uptrending on all time frames, and I have to hear people, oh, well, there's an RSI bear div on the hourly. Oh, well, that's a sweep of the high. Oh, well, blah, 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 blah. And you're sitting there making bearish argument. It's like, dude,
they're all fools.
Huh?
They're all fools, man. They don't stand a chance when you start posting the Pepe memes, man.
Exactly. It's like, I'm probably going to outperform you by having a stupid little green and blue line on my chart and just using that moving averages. You're probably going to get out traded by moving averages. And that's not, I'm not offending anybody, because people who trade that style of price action, sweeps of the highs, bear divs, blah, blah, blah. If they're truly elite traders, they know that kind of approach and execution is not applicable in a trend style market. They know that, right? So I'm not putting Folis down, or I'm not putting Trader XO down by saying, oh, you probably shouldn't be so worried about sweeps of the highs when we're in a relentlessly bullish uptrending market. They already know that, right? They're pros. They know this stuff.
Level me, matey. Level to level me, matey.
Right. Yeah. They know that stuff. They know not to step in front of the trend, and they know to only, dabble in that counter trending kind of, approach. They know that stuff. So we don't want a mid curve. We want to, subscribe to the thesis of the market. Market looks like it's headed up. Well, that's my analysis. Market's going up, so it's probably going to go higher, right? That's it. The cost of being a mid-curver on the next leg upwards. Now, again, this is applicable whether we start reclaiming trends and break out of range highs today, tomorrow, 3 months from now, if we pull back into 40K and then break out of all-time highs. I don't care. It's still applicable. We want to apply it. That's probably where that 20% of the time period, because again, I'm going to hurt some people's feelings by saying this. It's not like the market is just getting started. It's not like we're just entering a bull market. That is not what I'm trying to tell you. We've been in a bull market since January 2023. That's the reality of it. Yep. So if you haven't been able to acknowledge that, then that's probably more of a reflection of the way that you've been positioned since January 2023. Yeah. We are in a bull market. We have been in a bull market. It's not like when you reach all-time highs, it's like, oh, the bull market's starting. No. That's not how that works. We've been in a bull market. It is instead the proper way to look at it, in my opinion, is it's the last inning, right? It's that last 20% of the move, of which we see 80% of the reward from the entire bull market as a whole. It's the Pareto principle, or it's as I got familiar with it, it's the 80-20 marketing rule. So, Candy Crush users or Farmville users, a bunch of people are playing them. Those are really, really like big mobile games or whatever. And they have microtransactions. Well, 80% of that, game industry profit comes from 20% of users, because those are 20% of people that are really addicted to that game and spend every paycheck that they get on Farmville or on Candy Crush. The other 80% of people are more casual, and they just kind of throw $5 here, $5 there. They make up the other 20% of the profit that company makes. That's how I'm thinking about it. The last wave, the last leg away from previous all-time highs is that last 20%, but it just so happens to be 80% of where you're probably going to make your wealth in this entire bull market. That's how you think about it. That is the extreme of the extreme. That is the pinnacle of extremity. That is when Lindsay Lohan starts showing us scams again. How the hell is she not in jail yet, right? That's what we need to be prepared for, man. And it's coming eventually, because bull markets will always exist, because greed always exists. But that also means fear always exists. And yes, we got to be prepared for that too. But that's what we're here for, right? We're here for the crazy euphoria, the mania. Well, this is when that happens. So when we start to make that closer to reality, it's possible that that's what you're experiencing. So if you're mid-curving that, you are ensuring that by the time it happens, whether it's that time, even if it's a deviation, Mercury was wrong, he went on this whole rally and that was the top and blah, 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 and we go to zero from there. Eventually it happens, right? The next time around, that time that it happens, because it will happen, you're going to do the exact same thing. You're going to make the exact same mistakes. The cost of being a mid-curver just increased substantially. So be ready for that next leg higher, in that's how I'm positioning for it.
Man, now that you pulled up the weekly, if we go back to like early 2017, I noticed that like we're kind of doing the same thing that we're doing right now, right? Just ping-ponging within 10% of the previous all-time high for a number of weeks, man. I'm kind of, I feel that in my gut that maybe that's probably where we're at, man. Even like the structure kind of looks similar, in my honest opinion, man. And it took us quite a minute to propel out of that, man. So
it doesn't look like much, but this is 4 months.
Yeah, so 4 months. If we apply that basically means that like there's a possibility that Bitcoin might not break all-time high until the summertime, right? And in the summer, I've noticed that like there's always some kind of rally, even if we dump into it, right? That happened last summer, that happened the summer before that, and the summer before that too. The summer of 2020 is a bit different, right? Because like Fed was printing money and all that stuff, but I think we're gonna pump in the summertime, in my honest opinion, man. But man, this is some great analysis, man. Even some positive comments. We have Franco said, dude, loving this Mercury guy. And what's up, frogs? GM, keep wizarding, you wizards. Yeah, man, dude, this has been fantastic. And now you have the weekly EMAs pulled up and all that stuff. Wouldn't it be crazy if like the next bear market we just bottom out in the mid 30s range, which was a range that like a lot of people basically mid-curved, right? I remember when we broke out of that like 6 months, 7 month long range, people were like, crap, no way, this is just a deviation. We have to retest the yearly open at least one more time because it happened before.
Right.
And just because something happened before doesn't mean that it has to happen again, right? When it comes to like major moves like that, right? Like even with the Bitcoin all-time high, I posted this like my worst scenario possible, and it was back in November, and I had said that like worst case scenario, we do a triple top out at 75K, and then it's basically chopping down only for like the next 7 months, 8 months, and then people say it's over at 45K, and then we blast off to almost 200K, and most people get left on the sidelines even though they survived 2022. That was like my worst case scenario, and that happened in 2017 too. In the beginning, there was like a famous tweet by Angelo BTC. He said that a friend of his had shorted Bitcoin once it officially broke the late 2013 all-time high, back in like February or March of 2017. And like you'll see after that like 120-day range or whatever, that move that we exploded, that was a bunch of people getting liquidated, man. That first massive leg up was just everybody that survived Mount Gox, they all got blown to Kingdom Come. All of them. All of them. So I'm thinking history doesn't repeat itself, but it often rhymes, man. So, man, I don't touch that leverage button, man. I'm honestly like terrified. Absolutely terrified, man. But Mercury, brother, dude, it was great having you on, man. Any last thoughts, man? Anything you want to bring up before we wrap up here, brother?
No, not really, man. Just respect trends, guys. And that applies for both directions, right? It either works or it doesn't. But when it works, you miss out on negative 40% drops and you catch, hundreds of percentages rallies. And if it doesn't work, you're forced to adapt. And you can only hope that you're ready and willing and able to adapt. And if you truly call yourself a trader, then that's what it means. It means that you should be able and ready to adapt at any moment's notice to any significant outcome or any event, right? So just respect trends, and that should probably get you very, very far. I spent a lot of my early trading career hearing that regurgitated advice: just respect trends, trade the trend, trade the trend, trade the trend. I probably spent 2 or 3 years going against trends and not listening to the advice, just to end up coming back to that advice, later down in my career. So now I'm that dude telling other people, just respect the trend, respect the trend, respect the trend.
Yeah.
And it provides you luxuries, man. It really does.
Yeah.
People are so afraid of being bullish at the top and bearish at the bottom. They've missed the, what is the saying? How does the saying go? They miss the forest for the trees, right?
Oh, man, I hear that so much, man, in our spaces.
So
much, man. Mercury, before I close on out, man, if you can bring up total 3, I'll just wrap up with that, man. It'll take like 30 seconds. All right. So before we wrap up here, this is how much longer we have left in the cycle. We're not super early, but we're not late at all. We're just on time. We haven't even eclipsed, the spring 2022 highs yet. So I'm not sure where this FOMO is coming from, where some people think that the market is going to peak out like completely within 6 months, 7 months, Merc. And an interesting analogy that I'll throw a golden nugget in your direction, man. Maybe you can analyze it after the stream, is that total 3 has peaked out near like 95, 98% of Bitcoin's market cap during that cycle, right? And if you just look at total three's peak in April of 2021, and then also in November of 2021, they both peaked roughly around the same time frame, right? And at the same market cap too.
So they had the same market. I got you. Okay.
Yeah. So if we think Bitcoin is going to 120 to 150, 170 $1,000 per BTC, then you're basically saying that total 3 is essentially going to do a 4x from here. And if you think total 3 is going to do a 4x from here, that basically means something like Pepe can do like a 12 to 15x from these levels, right? Minimum, right? Just look at the rally that we've had, from the lows, right? Total 3 bottomed at like what, 260, right around there. So that was what is that, Mercury? Like a 2.5?
Yeah.
What do the little percentage thing, like when you move the thingy-majigs? Yeah. So that's like about 180% move, right? So if we basically pull off that move like 3 more times, think of what your altcoins are going to do, right? So that brings us back to our point where you were saying, Mercury, that people are here for the 20x plus gains, right? And this is nothing more than an appetizer. So until then, people just have to not blow up. You know what I'm saying? So
survive, mitigate some losses, trying to avoid negative 50% drawdowns if you can. And by the time we do draw down, you've probably allowed yourself a greater tier of options. Like, do I want to buy here? Do I want to start to, re-enter some of this position? Or would I rather wait from, some trend reclaims, or, best to just do nothing? Probably allow yourself those luxuries, and you can set yourself up for success moving forward, and play into whatever higher time frame thesis that you probably have or might have. So yeah, man.
Amen, man. Dude, it was a pleasure having you on. Thank you all so much for the audience. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you. Feel free to hit that like button if you enjoyed this hour-long discussion speaking about markets, and hit bell notifications and all that stuff. Feel free to follow Trader Mercury in the description down below. He's featured on our spaces and our panels, every other week, or a couple of times a month, a couple of times a quarter, right? And yeah, feel free to follow him. He posts some good memes. I love the Pepe memes and the bull memes, man. And yeah, hopefully we can have you on in the summertime when we're in a super, super bullish environment again, right? For now, it's just chop, right? Chop. It's a trader's trader, right? Like top elite trader environment, in my opinion, man. So I'm honestly just chilling, man. I don't know how people like XO and SC love to play this environment, man. They come from Forex, so
yeah,
I think that's why they're used to.
They also trade both directions. I only trade the upside, so
Yeah.
I focus on the upside.
And speaking of Forex, man, the Japanese yen has gotten obliterated, and I mean absolutely crushed against the dollar. I'm talking like Terra Luna type of destruction against the dollar. So much so that like a lot of people from my gym that are into anime and all that stuff, they've booked flights to Japan because the carry is at such an optimal moment, man.
Ah, yeah.
Yeah, man. But all right, I'll wrap up here. Thank you all so much. We'll see you all on Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern time for market check. And then later on that day, I'll be doing my Twitter spaces at 2:15 p.m. EST. So guys, take care. God bless you all. May the candles be in your favor. Thank you so much for supporting the channel. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Wabi.